Hi everyone, today I just want to talk about the lowest point ever you'll feel, or certainly I felt, after I relapsed the first time after taking 5 years off the booze. And it was 2017 and I just had enough. It was just a culmination of loads of things, that all the things that you're probably thinking about in your head as well, the poor sleeps and no energy, just not getting anywhere, treading water through life. And I had just had enough, and the kind of low point, if you want to call it that, was waking up with one of the most monumental hangovers on earth, which lasted 7 days, and it was actually 7 full days I felt horrendous for. I made a video on it, I'll link it in the description. And after that, I decided to take 5 years off it, and it was a strange thing because I don't really know what happened. It was post all the COVID stuff, and I think I just had this vision in my head where I was going to be this non-drinker. And I remember I had a business at the time, I was so busy, and I remember just at times imagining I would just be this social drinker that would go to parties and go to the pub, and I'd probably have 1 or 2 drinks, and then I'd be that guy that could just say, "Oh, that's me done. I'm away home. See you later." And I've got friends that can do that, and family, and I think it's a brilliant thing if you can do it. But for me, as a kind of quintessential British binge drinker, it's just not possible. And it would have been about maybe summer in 2022 where I just started. I remember I went to a pub and had 3-4 Guinnesses, and it worked. I went home afterwards and that was it. But I remember being really, really tired at the time because I was so busy and stuff like that, and it was just relentless. If you've ever owned your own business and you're trying to scale up, you'll know what it's like. It's just pretty much endless weekends, late nights, super early mornings. And I think genuinely looking back, it was great the first couple of months because I don't think I'd even convinced myself. I think at the time I would have thought I'd maybe nailed this thing. But I didn't really. I think I'd underestimated the fact that I was so tired and I didn't really want to sit in a pub. And a lot of these were just kind of after work where I was on the way home and I would just nip in for a couple of pints. And for some stupid reason, after 5 years, I thought that was a kind of great way to live a life. And even looking back or thinking about it now, who wants to go in a pub themselves and just drink 2-3 pints after work and then head home? It was just a really, really weird thing. But maybe if COVID hadn't happened, it would have been a bit of a difference. But so I end up a couple of months in, and then before you know it, it's bad habits. And I remember one of my mates was visiting over from Spain, and he asked if I wanted to go out for his birthday, and I ended up going. And that was the first time I'd actually been hammered for a while. And waking up the next morning was an odd feeling after you've been off it for 5 years, and waking up with a hangover. It was really strange. But I think even then, and the months that ensued after that, up until maybe 6-9 months of drinking, I didn't think I was doing a bad thing. I thought it's just a weird thing what alcohol does with your brain. It ended up, I thought, I work hard, I deserve it, I'm only out of the weekend, and all these, that's the kind of thoughts that I was going through. But there's a low point, certainly, and I think it's true for everyone, well, most people, I would imagine. And I think that low point was about 6-9 months in, maybe a bit longer, and I was at home, and by this point, the just drinking on a Saturday night became maybe drinking on the Friday as well. And before you know it, you're out the Friday because you've got that, I've been working hard all week, I totally deserve this kind of attitude. Deep down, you're kidding yourself on, but you still stupidly do it. I have no idea why. And then the Friday nights get a bit heavier, you know, start instead of having a few pints, they started becoming 2 in the morning sessions, just never going out clubbing anymore. I could never be bothered doing that anymore. But you know, you'd come home and the flats I stayed in, the apartment would be pretty much stocked up with stuff, because you know you might come home early, and you just kind of sometimes have a party for one, party for two there. And then Saturday, when the Friday nights get a bit heavier, by the time you get up, and I was never I was just a binge drinker, just like millions of us in the UK who grew up. I'm born 1983, so 42 now. Just like millions of us, kind of that's what you did growing up, and it's continued into our adulthood. And I'd wake up in the Saturday morning, never dying for a drink, the complete opposite, to be honest. Never needing a shot of vodka to function or anything, but you know, you'd go in the shower, get breakfast, maybe head uptown, and that would be, and then before you know it, you know, you need a hair of the dog. And if I didn't go out on the Friday night and I went out on the Saturday, sometimes on the Sunday, by the time you get up and it's 12, 1 in the afternoon, you're like, you know what, I wouldn't mind a beer, settle myself down, I'm working tomorrow, kind of thing. And that's the awful cycle you fall into. But the lowest point for me was, like I say, I'm probably about 6-9 months in, probably closer to 9 months. And the worst feeling I think I'd had in years and years was the point where I realised that I'm back in the cycle. I'm back in this binge drinking cycle that I took years and years and years to get out of. The amount of times I told myself that I'm definitely quitting booze pre and up until 2017 must have been hundreds of times. And at the time I was so serious. You wake up after a weekend in London or Amsterdam, or you got friends visiting and you've been at a party where it's free wine and shots, or a wedding where you're drinking gin and pints and red wine and white wine, and all those times that I said, and I'd finally managed to do it in 2017. I'd finally managed to turn the corner, to just, you know, get everything sorted in my life. You know, I got all my certifications at work. I was smashing everything, set up a big business. I'd, you know, saved up loads of money. I was fit and doing 20,000 steps a day. I was going to the gym all the time. I looked great, no bags under my eyes, no puffiness. And I remember just sitting there in my flat thinking, I cannot believe this has happened. I just couldn't believe it. And the thing is, it took me again another 50 attempts to quit, and every single time I was going to quit and I ended up drinking again, I had that same feeling, the same feeling of just, why did you throw it all away? You know, I had this pot of gold of a life that I'd always dreamed of, being the non-drinker who smashes it. And I never thought I'd drink for years and years, and stupidly thought I could turn into this moderating drinker. And just that, it's just a weird feeling to describe. Just total like loneliness, like you're annoyed with yourself, and you're just in disbelief that you're back in this situation. And it's just like a hard thing to describe. It's like, imagine you just built a house and then it's something you love, and then all of a sudden you decided to bulldoze it down, and you're just looking at that house you spent all those years building up, crashing down. And it's just genuinely a feeling that I would never want to even put on my worst enemy. It's just an awful feeling. And now, since I've been off it for 4 or 5 months, like, I don't even think about alcohol. Like, I was done with it before in 2017, but now I'm just like double, treble done with it, and I never want to go back. I will never go back. More determined than ever to stay off it, but I keep that feeling close to my brain. Just this feeling of disgust and couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe I was back in that situation. So if you are thinking about getting back on it, and I know some people are, because you know the word boredom gets thrown about, don't. It's just an awful, awful place to be. And you don't want to go through that feeling where, like I say, you're back in the cycle after a couple of months, and it hits you all of a sudden that I'm back to square one. Never, ever get back on it if you're off it at the moment, because like I say, you'll just get back into these habits and you'll have the biggest regret ever. And it took me so many attempts to get back to where I was, and I'm so glad that I kind of have a second chance to do this kind of alcohol-free journey 2.0. So like I say, just stay off it, you know, fill your time with stuff, just repair old relationships, remind yourself why you quit in the first place, and just stay on the straight and narrow path, because you don't want to go back to what I was going through between 2022 and 2025 when you're back in that binge drinking cycle of doom. It was just awful. Anyway, thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.